Hello world for Hyper API service. Hyper is an API that gives you access to several primitive services like data, storage, search, cache, and queue. In this workshop, we will go through the data service at a very high level, kind of a hello world level. How do I get started? And how does the API feel? My name's Tom Wilson, and let's go ahead and get started. Here I have GitHub open, and I'm going to sign in as kind of uh, a anonymous user, and then I'm going to jump to Hyper 63 slash workshops dash, and we're going to do Express.js or Node.js workshop. And we're going to do the Hello World one. So the Hello World will basically set up an account on Hyper, and then we'll use Hyper to create a Mario character document and to get a Mario character document. So in this workshop, we're building a Mario wiki, which has characters and games, and we're going to create the API for that wiki, and we're going to create a couple of endpoints on that API. Um, you should be knowledgeable about HTTP and JSON, JavaScript. We're using Node.js and Express in this workshop, but Hyper you can use really anything you want because it's kind of a REST API. And then, of course, you should be familiar with Git and GitHub. So before we get started, I'm going to go ahead and launch a virtual machine in Gitpod that will clone this repository and give us a starting point for the workshop. So I'll just click open in Gitpod and use my GitHub account and spin up that virtual workshop. And while that's running, I'm going to go and set up an app in the Hyper dashboard. So I'm going to open a new tab and type dashboard.hyper.io. And it's going to prompt me to log in with GitHub. So I'm going to do that. And it'll walk you through the login. And I'm going to go ahead and delete this app because it'll be worthwhile to start fresh with a new application. Um, so we'll come in to the Hyper dashboard and you'll have your add application button. Just click it, select your favorite name, Honeydew Cloud maybe, doesn't matter, just needs to be unique. And now we've got an app. This app has instantiated our services. So we have a data service and we have a connection string. And the whole point of Hyper is to have a single connection string to access all these services or a single API. Um, so let's check our Git pod. It's up and running. We're going to open a terminal in the Hello World folder, and in that, we're going to go ahead and just bump up the font so that it's easier to read. Um, and I'm just going to change my prompt here so I have more space. It's better. Maybe. Yes, that's better. Okay. So we want to take that connection string and add it to the app. So first thing I'm going to do is initialize the app in the Hello World folder by just calling yarn, or you could call npm install if you want. Um, and then I'm going to go ahead and create a .env file, and then I'm going to add hyper equals, and let's just surround it by quotes, equals, and then the connection string. So I'm going to go to the dashboard and click on this document here to copy the connection string. And then I'm going to paste it in here. And with this echo command, I can use the greater than sign to put this in my .env file. So now if we go look at our .env, we've got hyper and we've got our connection string. So that's super cool. So what we want to do in this workshop is, again, we set up our hyper development environment. So that's awesome. And we want to use hyper to create a Mario character document. So we set up the .env. We can run our server, and I'm going to run it calling yarn start, and that's going to run the server, and it's going to run it on port 3000. So if we go to our little remote monitor here, let's make that public, and we can close that down. And then, well, we can actually just click this little globe here, and that's going to open it in the browser. And we can see that if we do a request on the root, we get a JSON document with name equals Mario Wiki API. Super cool. Now we've got our server running. We can minimize that down here. And then look at this create character. So the create character, we want to create this character Mario, this character document in our API. And we've got a file called API/create character. This is an Express app. So if we want to look at the server, we can see that this is just a basic Express app, nothing magical, and we've just got two endpoints, a post API characters and a get API characters by ID. So those are the two functions we want to implement, and they're in the files create-character and get-character. So if we open create-character, we can see that we've got a function and it's sending a not implemented message. So while we're doing that, let's go ahead and set up how we're going to call it. And we're going to use a tool called hopscotch.io, spelled with two T's, hopscotch.io. And it's just a simple, kind of Postman-like interface in the browser. And I can grab this URL and paste it here and do a get. And if everything works, we get Mario's Wiki API, which is cool. And what we want to do is do a post. And we want to post to the API and the characters endpoint. And we want to send a body of type JSON. And in that body, I'm just going to go over to our README and copy this example, and we'll just add that as our body. Super cool. And then what we want to do is do a send. Now we're getting message not implemented because we haven't implemented our feature yet. So now we're ready to implement it. We're going to use a module called HyperConnect. So if we go to package JSON, we can see that we've added HyperConnect already, and we're going to use that to expose our Hyper API in this create character JS. So import connect from HyperConnect. And now that we have the connect, we need to give it our connection string. So we're going to say const hyper equals connect process.env to grab the hyper connection string from its environment variable. And then we're going to instantiate the hyper connect client by calling open paren, close paren. You can have multiple instances in an app of particular services. So you could have, and the default is the default instance. So you could pass default in, and that would be fine. But you could also have multiple instances there. So we've got that, and now we just need to add our document. So we'll capture the result and we'll call await hyper.data.add, and we'll grab from the request the body. Um, and then we'll return the result. So, the purpose of this is to really get you up and going quickly and get a feel for the Hyper API. So in real world apps, obviously you want to validate your body before it comes in and before you write it to your database. Um, okay, so that's it. That's all we need to add data to Hyper. If we go to Hopscotch and we run our post now, we should get OK true and an ID of character 1. Now that we've got that in the database, let's make sure we can get it out. So with that, we're going to implement get character. So we'll say get character on hello world and do the exact same thing. Import connect from hyper connect, and then we'll create our hyper API by calling connect, passing it the connection string, and then we'll instantiate the library. And now we'll call await hyper.data.get, and we'll grab the params.id from the request object, and then we'll send the response to the caller like that. And that's how we do a get in Hyper data service. So we go to Hopscotch and we can change this to a get and change the API to API characters, character dash one, and that should be our get. And if everything goes well, we get our document back. Pretty cool. So if we look at the README now, we just did the get character in the workshop. And here's a couple of curl examples that you can do, or you can use Hopscotch as well. Either way, they all work. And yeah, give that a try, have some fun, and then check out our next workshop where we'll go deeper into the Connect um, client for Hyper. Thanks.